All right, good day, guys. I just want to point out a few things. I think I went kind of fast on complex numbers today, but in case you miss it, here are some notes to help you kind of go over it, okay? So this is 2.2, complex numbers. You're basically going to be able to simplify complex numbers. All right, okay, so here we go. Here's your warm-up. So all you're going to do is you're going to simplify. So therefore, all you have to do is combine like terms. So what do we have? 2x squared minus 1 half x squared is 3 half x squared. Okay, 1 1/2. And then you combine 3x plus 2x is 5x, minus that is plus 4x. And there you have simplifying. All right. Now let's look at the vocab word that you need to know. One of them is complex numbers. The other one will be a conjugate, which is taking the opposite. Ooh, I guess I need a new pen. That's no good. Means taking the opposite. Say, for example, all right. So if I have 2 plus 4i, the conjugate of that would be 2 minus 4i. And the whole goal of that is to get rid of the I, okay? Which we're going to go over later on. All right. So let's take a look at the first part right here. It says, what is the sum of the following? So you have, sum means to add. So I'm going to have 2 plus 6x plus 3 minus x. Did you guys see that? So all you're going to do is combine your like terms. 2 plus 3 is 5, and 6x minus x is positive 5x. Okay? Take a look at the next part. You're also adding, and this time instead of I, we have instead of x, we have an I. So 2 plus 6i plus 3 minus I. You see the sum? You see that plus? So this is the same as 2 plus 6i plus 3 minus I. Combine your like terms. 2 plus 3 is 5. 6i minus I is positive 5i. So you add it the same way as if you would do a variable. Okay? All right. So on your calculator, if you will type this in, let's see what you get. I to the first is I squared is negative 1. This is the most important one. I cubed is the same as negative I, and I squared is the same as 1. And if you will notice, this is on your calculator, straight calculator. All right. So let me show you how to type it in just so you know. Okay, watch. I is right here. There's your I. Okay? So second I raised square. See how that's negative 1? I raised to the third, negative I, and so forth. What is I raised to the fifth? I to the sixth, negative 1, I to the 7, negative I to the 8th, 1. Do you guys see a pattern? Okay? Let's look at I raised to the 9th. Comes out to be 1. E, negative 13 plus I. Ignore that, so the answer is I. Isolate the variable. I raised to the 126. Comes out to be negative 1 minus 2.6 e negative 12i. You see how that e negative 1 is isolated? Ignore it. So you can really only have 4 answers. Okay? So how about I? Oops, get out of that. Second I raised to the 127. Comes out to be negative 2.3 e to the negative 12 minus I. So the answer is negative I. You ignore that. So that's kind of how you do it. Okay? How about I raised to the 128? Comes out to be 1 plus 2.8 e negative 12i. Isolate this and ignore that. So that comes out to be 1. So these are the only 4 choices you can possibly have. You guys keep it down just a little bit. Let me finish my notes. All right. Next part. What is the product of the following? Product means you are going to multiply. So this would be 2 plus 6x times 3 minus x. All right. You can use a method called FOIL, but I just call it distributive. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times negative x is negative 2x. 6x times 3 is positive 18x. 6x times x is negative 6x squared. Combine your like terms, and you have 6 plus 16x minus 6x squared. Bye, guys. Have a good day. You too. Have a good day. All right, let's look at the one that has an I now. All right, here we go. 2 plus 6i from the product times 3 minus I. All right, same thing. 2 times 3, 6. 2 times I, negative 2i. 6i times 3, positive 18i. 6i times negative I, negative 6i squared. All right. See that I squared? That is the same as times negative 1. So basically, you have 6 minus 2i plus 18i minus 6 times negative 1, which comes out to be positive 6. So to simplify, 6 plus 6 is 12. 2i plus 18i comes out to be 16i. Okay? And there you have that. Oops, so sorry. Okay. So 6i squared is the same as positive 6. It's basically always the opposite. All right, let's look at the next part. Here we go. Okay, 6i. You see how there's an I? That's an imaginary number. Okay? I should just write I-M-A-G. Do you see how there's a real in that? That is called a complex number. That one is just a real number. 0 is a real number, and an I square is just an imaginary. Complex means you have both. So if you want to look at the scenario, here you go. Real numbers, imaginary numbers. Now that has an I, and when you put them together, you have complex numbers. Okay. Next part, adding and subtracting. Notice how they do it a little different from me on page 61 of your textbook. So they combine, and then what they did, they factor out an I, and then they combine 2 minus 7. You can do it like that, or you can do it the way I showed you. Okay? Same thing as multiplying. You see how they have an I square? Comes out as a negative 1. Okay? And then they factor out the common factors here, and then they combine like terms. Your choice, or you can do it the way I showed you. Okay. All right, so here is the conjugate. If you have a number like that, a plus bi, the conjugate is always going to be the opposite. And why do you want to do that? Because you are not allowed to have an I in your denominator. So for example, if you have 2 over square root of 2, what do we do right there? We multiply it times the square root of 2, both the numerator and denominator. The word for that is rationalize. So what do you have? You have 2 square roots of 2 over 2, cancel. So your final answer is square root of 2. See that right there? Okay. Same concept goes with the I. What if you have 5 times 4 plus I? You're not allowed to have that I down there, so you're going to multiply it times the conjugate, which is the opposite. And we're going to finish the math. Okay? All right, let's look at some right here. Here we go. So what do? So here's your denominator. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times I is negative 4i. I times 4, positive 4i. I times negative I is negative I squared. Your numerator, 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times negative I is minus 5i. All right, let's simplify. Guess what happens to this middle term every time? They cancel. So now you have 16 minus I squared. And what is I squared the same thing as? Negative 1. So you have 20 minus 5i, 16 minus negative 1. A negative and a negative becomes a positive. So your answer is 20 minus 5i over 17. And you can't simplify those anymore. All right. So let's see if you guys can do these and see if you get the same answer. Try to do these on your own, okay? Your first one should be 11 plus 9i. All right, take a look at 23. 5 plus 2 is 7. Negative 2i minus I is negative 3i. 26, subtraction. So this is the same as 2 plus 3i. There's that minus. Minus 5 minus 4i. So that comes out to be negative 3 minus I. Okay? So this one is 6 minus I minus 8 plus 2i. See that minus? So you got to distribute that. 6 minus 8 is negative 2. Negative I plus 2i is positive I. Number 30. All right, 30, I'm actually going to do it down here, okay, because I don't have room up there. So 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 3i plus 3i. See how there's no plus or minus between them, so you're going to multiply. Plus 8i plus 6i squared. That's the same as negative 6. I'm going to go ahead and make that negative 6. Combine your like terms. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. 3i plus 8i is positive 11i. Okay? Same for number 31. Here we go. All right, let's see if I need to move that over. Same thing. See how there's no plus or minus, so I'm multiplying. Negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15. Negative 5 times 2 plus 10i. Negative I times that times 3 is positive 3i. Negative I plus times negative 2i is positive 2i squared, which comes out to be negative 2. 15 minus 2 is 13. 10i plus 3i is positive 13i. Okay, there we go. All right, let's go on to another one. All right, number 36. Okay, here's number 36. This time you have a 7 over 1 minus 2i. Can't have an I, so you're going to multiply it times the conjugate. Just like that. See it? Let's go ahead and distribute your 7. 7 plus 14i divided by 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2i is positive 2i minus 2i plus 4i squared, which comes out to be negative 4. So 7 plus 14i, these guys cancel. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. There you go. Okay?
Can we please have someone from custodial to come to the front office? Thank you.
Number 37. 17 minus 4 minus I. See how you have an I? All right. Same thing. So now we have 17 times 4, okay, is 68 plus 7i. And then, look, you guys notice how you always cancel the middle term? 4 times 4 is 16 plus 4i minus 4i. See, that happens every time. Negative I times I is negative I squared, which comes out to be 1. These guys cancel. So you have 68 plus 7i over 17. Oh, sorry, 17i. Now, that should be 17i. Sorry, 17, 17. Now, does that go into all of them? Yes, that cancels out. 17 goes into that 4 times. 17 goes into that 1 time. So the final answer is 4 plus I, because that all cancels out. Okay? All right. So here is your exit ticket. See if you guys can do your exit ticket. Here we go. All right, let's look at this one. Number 4. That's a plus between those binomials. So this is the same as negative 4 minus I plus 15 minus 3I. Combine your like terms. Negative 4 plus 15 is 11. Negative 9I minus 3I is negative 12I. There you go. Let's look at 15. What is symbol between them? That's a multiplication. So you are going to multiply. Okay? So 5 times negative 2, negative 10. 5 times 10i, negative 50i. Negative 6i times negative 2, positive 12i. Negative 6i times negative 10i is positive 60i squared. That's a negative 1, so that go ahead and make that a negative 60. So negative 10 minus 60 is negative 7. Negative 50 plus 12 is minus 38i. Write them as a complex numbers, please. Okay. Let's look at number 6. And I'm going to do number 6 down here because I don't have room, okay? So this is the same as 4 divided by 1 plus I. Can't have an I in your denominator, so you got to use the conjugate, just like that, okay? 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times negative I is negative I. 1 times 1 is 1, plus I minus I squared. So just multiply them out. That comes out to be positive 1. So 4 minus I, these cancel. 1 plus 1 is 2. You can't simplify that anymore. You could rewrite it like this if you want, which comes out to be 2 minus I over 2. So you can write your answers like that, or you can leave your answers like that. The choice is yours. All right, guys, this was just an exit ticket. Good luck. If you have any questions, please ask me tomorrow. Bye. Might be a little noisy.